Welcome to another episode of the Para Cave podcast. And now over to your host, Troy Warner, broadcasting live from the world-famous Para Cave.
And yes, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Para Cave podcast. It is tipping time, so this is the tipping podcast, which is proudly brought to you by Ashore Strata Reports and Buddy Oldman Masters Boxer. So you can follow Buddy on Facebook and you can follow Ashore Strata Reports on Instagram. They are the proud sponsors of the Para Cave podcast tipping competition, which is now 1 week old. Now,
It's a week old.
Yes, that's it. Round one is done and dusted. So, look, shout out to Pricey08, who is the current leader on 14 points. Then we have Eels 2025 Premiers on 10 points. And a special shout out to Jaden Zaid, who tipped a perfect round on the weekend. And
Why is there no third?
Because they're on the same points, so they're equal second, which is third as well. So, but a shout out to Jaden Zaid for getting a perfect round. Now, myself, I am in 65th spot, equal 65th on 4 points, and my little co-host here, Ella, you are in 74th spot, and you also tip 4 winners as well. So 50% right for the first round, which is not a bad start.
It's not a bad start.
Anything less than 50%, then that is very tough to come back by. But they're your leaders at the moment in the Para Cave podcast tipping competition. And it is round number 2 in the NRL. And it kicks off on Thursday night up there at Newcastle at McDonald Jones Stadium. The Newcastle Knights up against the Dolphins. Now, the Newcastle Knights, they had a win in round 1, 10-8 against the Tigers. The Dolphins went down 16-14 to the Rabbitohs, which was played at CommBank Stadium. It was a relocated game. Thankfully now, ex-Tropical Cyclone Alfred has been downgraded. There is a lot of rain about and flooding, so for those up in Queensland, please stay safe and out of the floodwaters. But this game we played on Thursday, 8 p.m, kicking it off. Now, the last time these two sides met last year, the Newcastle Knights got away with a victory, 14 points to 6, and also, previous to that, the last game was a Dolphins home game. They got the win. They lost as well, 18 points to 14 against Newcastle. So Newcastle have got a bit of form against the Dolphins. And if we look at this week's team for Newcastle, Adam Elliott returns after missing round 1. Brodie Jones goes back to 18th man. No other changes to their side, which is good, which is what you want. You don't want too many changes, I guess, if you won. You want to keep those halves together, Fletcher Sharp and Jack Cogger. Give them more experience of playing together in the halves for Newcastle, because that has been a bit of a problem from them before. For the Dolphins, Oren Keeley promoted from 18th man to start in the back row, and Mark Nichols, he joins the bench after missing last week's game, after deciding to remain in Queensland with his family during the cyclone. Cody Nikorima also returns to the starting side as well, and Sean O'Sullivan drops to the reserves. Look, the Dolphins last week against the Rabbitohs, look, they went okay. They may have had a lot on their minds with that cyclone happening. The Newcastle Knights, well, look, they were probably the better team in the second half, I'd have to say, against the Tigers, but they got away with the win. Up there at Newcastle, this is going to be a pretty tight affair. Ella, who are you going for in this one?
In this one, I'm going for the Dolphins.
The Dolphins. Look, I'm going to go for the Newcastle Knights in this one.
Of course you are.
Well, a few reasons. A, they are last start winners, and also it is played up at Newcastle as well. And Newcastle also have a bit of a... They've played 4 times, and Newcastle have won 3 out of the 4, so they do have a good record against the Dolphins. So that's why I'm going to go for them in that one. Friday night, we go across to New Zealand, where it is the Warriors taking on the Manly Sea Eagles at 6 p.m, the first game of the night on Friday night, as we are back to a full round. So there is 2 games on a Friday, 3 on a Saturday, 2 on a Sunday. So this one at Go Media Stadium in Auckland. Now, the Warriors, obviously, they had last weekend off after playing in Las Vegas the first week of the competition. So they had the week off last week. Manly, they looked really good against the Cowboys last week. They started off really fast and got some great momentum and scored a lot of points, 42 points in fact. So Tommy Turbo looks like he's pumped for 2025. DCE as well. That game was at Brookvale. This is over in New Zealand anyway. Look, they played twice last year, over once in New Zealand, once at Brookvale. The last game at Brookvale, the Sea Eagles got the win, 24 points to 10. The last game over in New Zealand, it was a 22-all draw, so interesting one there. The Warriors obviously lost to the Raiders over there in Las Vegas, and as I mentioned, the Cowboys the Sea Eagles beat the Cowboys 42 points to 12. So, look, I think this one here, if we look at their 2 sides, look, the Warriors coach Andrew Webster, he's picked the same 17 that played in Las Vegas. So, obviously having the week off last week has helped them. Josh Aloiai comes in for Siwa Takiaho. The bench is the same for Manly as well. So some big boppers on the bench as well. Ella, who are you going to go for in this one? Warriors versus the Eagles.
I'm going for Sea Eagles.
Yeah, look, I'm going to agree with you on that one. I just think the form that they showed last week against the Cowboys, I think they can get the job done again. We'll have to wait and see if there is a bit of a Las Vegas hangover for those sides that did go to Las Vegas. So I think Manly will get the win. Now, the next game on Friday night, 8 p.m, sees this game being played at CommBank Stadium. It is the Penrith Panthers up against the Sydney Roosters. Now, why is it at CommBank Stadium? Because obviously Panthers Stadium is getting redeveloped, so this will be the home for the Panthers for the next 2 seasons. Now, Panthers, obviously another side that are returning, or they have returned, had the week off last week from Las Vegas, and the Roosters, they went down, unfortunately, to the Brisbane Broncos pretty badly last week, 50 points to 14. The Panthers had a win, 28 points to 22 over the Sharks over there in Las Vegas. So, look, they are red-hot favourites, the Panthers. Brian To'o, he comes back into the side. Paul Alamotti shifts to the centre. Luke Garner, who was playing centre over there in Las Vegas, reverts to the bench. For the Roosters, Victor Radley was sidelined. He had concussion protocols, so he's sidelined for this game. Last week's debutant, Salesi Forketti has been promoted to the starting side at lock, and former Eel Makahesi Makatoa has been added to the bench for this one. Makahesi Makatoa, formerly of the Parramatta Eels, now at the Sydney Roosters, so he's found his spot on the bench. And that's about it as far as changes. Spencer Leniu. He will return in round 3 from suspension. Now, the last season, the first game they played last season, the Panthers got the win 22 points to 16. The second game, the Panthers beat the Roosters by 20 points, 30 points to 10. Ella, who are you going for in this one?
I think you already know.
Yes.
Panthers.
Yes, indeed. And look, I'm going to go the Panthers as well.
Oh, really?
Yes, I just think the way they played in Las Vegas, having the week off, playing at their new home, the great ground that CommBank Stadium is, and the Roosters, I think they're going to have a long season this year. So, unfortunately, I don't think the Panthers will put 50 points on them. I think it'll be a much better effort from the Roosters, but you never know in rugby league. But I think it's going to be a long season for the Roosters. So I'm going the Panthers on that one.
And so am I.
Yes, I think you're going to tip Panthers 24 weeks for the 24 weeks, I think, that they play. Yep. Yeah. Dragons and the Rabbitohs, two arch rivals, kicks off on Saturday. This one down at Wynn Stadium in Wollongong. Now, for some reason, and I don't know what it is, but I think the Dragons play a little bit better down there. I don't know what it is, but I think that's the case. But so they'll be firing, ready to go. These sides only met a few weeks ago in the Charity Shield. The Rabbitohs, look, they got their win last week against the Dolphins, as I mentioned, and 16 points to 14. The Dragons went down to the Bulldogs 28 points to 20 in a close affair, which it was in the end. So the Dragons will be wanting to get their season off to a start by winning this game. The Rabbitohs will want to continue their winning ways. Still some new players in the Dragons side. Unfortunately for the Dragons, and it's always sad to see a player go down for the season in round 1, that was Ryan Couchman, who has unfortunately done his ACL, so shout out to him. Fast recovery, mate, and we'll see you in 2020. Excuse me, 6. So 2026, excuse me. Now, Jack Whiten is suspended for the Rabbitohs, so Fletcher Myers comes in to replace him. Tyrone Munro, unfortunately, went down with a collarbone injury last week, so Bailey Bentley-Hape makes his NRL debut. So, look, that's unfortunate again for Tyrone. Scored a couple of tries last week. Lewis Dodd has served his suspension in round 1. He's listed amongst the reserves. Will he get a start? I don't know, because Jamie Humphries played pretty well last week against the Dolphins. So Wayne Bennett has stuck with Jamie in at halfback and probably the goal kicker as well. Ella, who are you going to go for in this one?
Okay, let me just check my tips. I'm going for the Rabbitohs again.
The Rabbitohs again, okay. I'm going to go the Dragons in this one, actually. As I mentioned before, they play a little bit better down there at Wynn Stadium. I don't know what it is. I'm thinking the score might be about 28, 26 to 14. Just the last time they played last season, it was 28 points to 14 in favour of the Dragons. 2023, it was 26-14. So some very similar scores there. We may see
a lot of 14s.
Yes, we may see the same thing there. So I'm going to go for the Dragons in that one. The second game of Super Saturday sees the Cowboys take on the Sharks. Now, the Sharks are a returning side from Las Vegas. They had the week off last week. And another road trip up to Townsville. So I wonder how that travel will impact them, even though they did have last week off. Still, it is a lot of travel. for the Cowboys, they had a big loss against the Manly Sea Eagles last week, 42 points to 12, so a little bit of an embarrassment for them. They will want to get their season off with a victory. And the Sharks, they will also want to get it off to their winning ways in 2025 after going down to the Panthers 28 points to 22. Last time they played, the Sharks got the win 26-18. The Cowboys before that got the win up there in Townsville 30 points to 22. So two competitive sides when they play each other. For the Cowboys, Jason Taumalolo is listed amongst the reserves. Coach Todd Payton has refused to panic. He hasn't hit the panic button. So he hasn't made a lot of changes. Sharks coach Craig Fitzgibbon has named an unchanged 17 that performed pretty strong against the Panthers, but they went down unfortunately. So, Ella, who are you going to tip in this one?
I'm going for the Sharks.
Yeah, look, I think the Sharks will get this one as well. They've been one of the competition favourites this season. A lot of people have got them in their top four. I think they will, the way that they performed a couple of weeks ago against the Panthers, look, they want to get their season off to a winning way. The addition of Adam Fanua-Blake is a great one. I wonder how much the travel will impact them, but look, I just can't see the Cowboys getting close to them, unfortunately. It might be a closer result than the one they played against Manly, but I think the Sharks will get the win in that one as well, so we're agreeing on that one. The last game on Super Saturday sees the Raiders take on the Broncos down there in Canberra. So the Raiders find themselves in 4th spot at the moment. The Broncos in 2nd spot. And look, this is, I guess you could say, two sort of rivals, especially in the 90s. They were anyway. But not so much these days. This is going to be a big test for Canberra. They are playing... They're playing their first home game of the season, so they'll want to get off to a win down there in front of their home fans after a great win against the Sharks over in Las Vegas. Their captain, unfortunately, is suspended, Joe Tarpany. Josh Papali'i goes up to prop. Morgan Smithies starts at lock. And another Englishman, Matty Nicholson, is a new man on the bench. For the Broncos, unchanged 17, so that's always good. You get a win, and it was a pretty good one against the Roosters, and unchanged lineup. So Ben Hunt, Adam Reynolds at the halves. Pat Carrigan had a great game. Payne Haas is going well. A few little changes for Canberra. Look, this could be a Canberra victory, but who are you going to tip in this one, Ella?
I'm going for the Broncos.
Yes, wise decision. I'm also going for the Broncos as well.
We have a lot of agreements this time.
Yeah, well, we're pretty, I guess, on the same page and sort of tipping the same teams as we want to get a few wins. So, I'm going the Broncos in that one as well. They just played really well last week against the Roosters, so... I know we're going to have a difference in this game here. The first game on Sunday is the Parramatta Eels up against the West Tigers. So, two sides that will play each other twice in, I think it's 7 or 8 weeks. So this is the first meeting. It's the first home game of the season for the Parramatta Eels, who absolutely got smashed last week against Melbourne. So pretty embarrassing, that one. So they will want to come back in front of their home fans and get a win against the Tigers. That is for sure. Dylan Brown, he's obviously settled his future with their massive $1.4 million a year, $14 million for 10 years $1.4 million a year, $14 million contract for 10 years up at Newcastle. So I suppose that can be a good thing. Now that his future is sorted, that will be off his mind, and hopefully he can concentrate on the game. Maybe that was what was lacking last week. A few changes for the Parramatta side. Coach Jason Riles has wielded the axe for a couple of players, including Kelma Tuilagi, who has been replaced by Sean Lane, who's overcome a knee injury. Former Bulldog Jordan Samrani makes his NRL debut on the wing, taking over from Jake Tango. And Kotoni Kotoga, he has been added to the bench. Charlie Geimer, unfortunately, has been dropped to New South Wales Cup. A little bit disappointing to see Charlie dropped, but Coach Jason Riles has made that decision, and I guess you got to stick with what the coach says, and he knows what he's doing. I would have liked to have seen Charlie play another game anyway as well. Look, to be honest, I would have liked to have seen Kelma play another game as well, but obviously the coach has seen something and the fans have seen something as well, so it is good to see Coach Jason Riles make some changes. For the Tigers, Api Coruscant comes back from suspension, so that is great news for you Tigers fans. Jareem Buller also comes back into the side to play his first game of the year. And also Star Toa is good to go as well. So Tristan Hope, last week's debutant, great story that one as well, 27-year-old making his NRL debut, is listed among the reserves. So I hope he gets another game. That's a great story there. But great to see Jareem Buller back. It is one hell of a good spine, that one. Buller, Galvin, Luai and Coruscant, the big Parramatta forwards who are a bit leaner this year, will have to be keep an eye on Api Coruscant from dummy half. Ella, I know you're going to tip the Tigers in this one, so I'm not going to ask you on, are you?
Yeah.
I'm not going to ask you. Yeah, I thought you were going to tip the Tigers in this one.
You already knew my tip.
Yeah, well, I did, but
and I bet you're going to go the Eels.
Yes, I think Parramatta can get their first win of the season.
I don't think they can.
The last time they played, of course, was Spoon Bowl last year. Parramatta pulled off a massive victory, 60 points to 26. I don't think we'll see anything like that on the weekend this time around, but two losing sides from round one. So again, both sides will want to get a win to start their winning ways in 2025. The last game of the season. The round.
Yes, the season.
Sees a return back to Belmore Sports Ground, the traditional home of the Bulldogs, who take on first up starters for 2025, the Gold Coast Titans, who had the bye last week, so this is their first game of the year. Now, some, I guess you could say, interference news for them, some unfortunate news for them. With Cyclone Alfred up there in Queensland, their training fields have been absolutely flooded. So they've actually relocated to Sydney. I think they come down today or tomorrow, I think. So a little bit of disruption for them. Which is never any good. We'll just have to wait and see. They will probably train out of, I think it's Olympic Park in Sydney. This game at Belmore Sports Ground, so I think they should get a sellout there. The Bulldogs, they had a good win last week against the Dragons. They let the Dragons back into the game, but they had a great win against them, so they want to keep on winning. Last year they played early on late in March. It was a win to the Bulldogs, 32 points to 0. Look, maybe this is a new, improved Gold Coast side. Regan Campbell-Gillard, new signing for them. He is in the front row alongside Mo Fotuaika, and also Tino Fasu-Malawi, he returns to lock. So, look, he ruptured his ACL last year in round 3, so a long time between drinks playing football for Big Tino, so great to see him back. AJ Brimson and Jaden Campbell in the halves. We saw that in the trial against the Dolphins. So, look, they'll be eager to get out there and play some footy for season 2025, but I can't see them getting the win against the Bulldogs. I think they will win. Ella, who are you tipping?
I'm going for the Bulldogs.
Yes, okay, so we've got the same one in that one
Again!
as well. So we've got a few the same and a few different. So just recapping my Ella's tips.
I can recap my tip.
Okay, who have you got this week, Ella?
Okay, I have the Dolphins, Seagulls, Panthers, Rabbitohs, Sharks, Broncos, West Tigers, and Bulldogs.
Okay, and of course I forgot to mention too that the Melbourne Storm have the bye this week.
Bye-bye.
I have tipped this week the Knights, the Seagulls, the Panthers, the Dragons, the Sharks, the Broncos, the Eels, and the Bulldogs. So
we have a few different.
that's right. So hopefully I get a perfect round.
Hopefully I get a perfect round.
We'll just have to wait and see. So follow our tips if you dare. As we said,
if you dare.
We've only got 4 out of 8 for round 1. So
which is not very good.
People, no, you want to get off to a good start. So unfortunately, that wasn't to be. So follow our tips if you dare, but that's who we're going for this week. If you're in the Parakeet podcast tipping competition, don't forget before Thursday 8 p.m. to put your tips in and get those ones in. That is for sure. Proudly brought to you again by Ashore Strata Reports on Instagram and also Buddy Old Man Masters Boxer on Facebook. Thank you very much for listening to the Tipping Podcast. And look, let's hope your tips get up, because we'll be hoping our tips get up. And enjoy your rugby league over the weekend. And who are you going? Well, you want the Panthers to win,
yeah,
and I will want the Eels to win as well. So go Para!
Go Panthers!
Alrighty, thank you very much for listening. Plenty more content coming your way this week as well. So, the Parakeet Podcast, by the fan, for the fans.
Bye!
Go Para!
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Parakeet Podcast. See you next time.